talking about beliefs.
It's because you believe nothing. Nothing sacred. All right.
So I am about halfway through the Coen brother movies now.
Nice.
I find the serious ones to be much more in my liking.
Well, yeah.
Than the funny ones, because I find their comedy to be absurd comedy. Than the, it doesn't mean I don't like the movies. I just like the serious ones better. Other than The Big Lebowski.
Okay, so put a pin in that. Did you watch Blood Simple at night as I directed?
I did.
And
I like it. It's one of my it's a great thriller movie. It's one of the better Coen brothers movies I've seen too.
Yeah, I absolutely love that movie. How'd you like that scene where I just think that scene's amazing, where Emmett T. Walsh is at that window and he reaches over to the other window. That's one of my favorite movie scenes ever. Yeah.
It was really good. And she's on the other side.
Yeah. Oh man, it was so good. But I'm with you on their comedy stuff. Big Lebowski is, obviously that one's excellent, but nothing beats Raising Arizona for me. Raising Arizona is amazing.
Yeah, I get it. And it's a good movie. And I understand why people like it. It's just, and I like it. It's not that I don't like it. It's that absurdist humor I can do without.
When it comes to their comedy and their absurdist stuff, it's weird because I'm normally in the same spot with the little asterisk beside it. I actually really, really enjoy the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I forgot about that one.
Yeah,
well, that's the Odyssey.
You're right. It's even though it is absurdist comedy, I think it's really, really cleverly done.
Yeah.
And so, but even on their their short
again, it's
stuff,
not to say they're bad.
Oh no, for sure.
Because that's not what I'm saying. I just prefer the serious over their comedy.
And I feel the same way. Like on the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, like there's some really good content in those little shorts, that little film anthology. But the ones that I enjoy the most are some of the more serious ones that nobody really talks about, because, of course, the one that gets all the attention is the very first one, which is a little cowboy musical. But it's the kind of same thing. I don't like the absurdist humor that they find in it.
Their crime stuff is what's
yes,
over and above for me.
Yes.
Fargo,
good Lord. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's why Big Lebowski works, because even though it's got their humor in it, because it's also a crime story, it works for me. Which is probably the same with Raising Arizona.
Yeah.
Well, you know what works for me? Do you?
I feel a segue coming.
Do you know what works for me?
Segues?
Segues, especially a segue to episode 133 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. Welcome back, everybody. I hope your week is going well. As per usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
I'm Craig Lance.
And it fills my heart with unbridled, unmitigated joy to be hearing your voices on this lovely Sunday morning. How's everybody doing?
I'm okay with hearing everybody's voices.
Yeah.
I'm doing well.
I'm just kidding.
I'm surviving.
I'm very glad to be here. This is a highlight of the week.
It really is.
It's definitely one of the funner times of the week for me.
Like as I'm sitting here like talking to you guys, like I feel myself. I'm legitimately smiling, and I think that is a statement of the world that we're in with everything being shit right now. Is I realize that I'm smiling, and it's different. It's somewhat strange because there's not a lot of reason to smile outside of friends and podcasting. And I miss you guys. I miss seeing you, and if I can't see you, then hearing your voices is a close second, and it makes me happy.
Well, happy Caleb's a better Caleb.
It really is. That needs to be on the next SFG t-shirt. So, well, I'm glad your weeks in real life is going well. How about your weeks in comics? Everything copacetic on that front?
Improving.
Nice.
Feels like.
Very cool.
Books are slowly starting to trickle back in. And the ones that I am reading are very good books. So I'm finding very few lackluster books right now. And maybe that's a sign of the fact that I haven't had any books for a while. Or maybe it's a sign that, I've weeded out some of the books that I was just kind of collecting to collect.
I think it's partly that, and partly the fact that because books are trickling in right now, we're not getting as many of them, so we have the time to actually sit down with the books and appreciate it's quality versus quantity. We don't feel that pressure to read 20 books, so maybe we're spending more time, because I felt the same way. Maybe we're spending more times with the individual books that we have, and so we're picking up more. I don't know. Or it could be just like you said, there was some kind of crappy stuff that we were reading and now we're not. So
I've definitely, some of the books that I was reading, I'm no longer interested in now that they've started coming back out. And part of that to me is telling me that I was reading them out of habit more than I was out of joy for them.
Right.
So I'm okay. It's helping me to trim down the fat, so to speak.
That's the only fat that's getting trimmed in the time of COVID. I'm getting fluffy as fuck.
It's all the fat's going on my body for damn sure.
You know what else helps me, especially during this time, find some joy, things about, including comics that I appreciate?
What's that?
Going online and actually using social media for good, for fun thing. I mean, you talk about social media, people get like, oh, it's the bane of the universe. It's why life is shit and everything sucks. And that's true, except for some certain small corners, such as our Facebook group, where if you go on Facebook and you type in the search bar, Southern Fried Geekery podcast will pop up. Ask a few little questions just to make sure you're not like a Cambodian troll or anything, and we'll let you come in, and then you can tell us what you're reading. You can post news articles, you can post art, you can post anything. And,
wait, a Cambodian troll?
Yeah, I got hung up on that one too.
Look, the Russians get hit a lot. I just think that we need to maybe realize that maybe Cambodia has some bad.
Well, I will be talking about a book from Vietnam later today, so that fits well.
Yeah, timing. I was more concerned about Mongolian trolls, but
yeah,
that's I'm not sure if I'm ready to broach that yet. I mean, those people scare me, so they might come after me. We do have a strong Mongolian listener presence on our podcast.
I would only assume.
I'm not sure if I'm ready to make those waves yet.
I love the band Woo. Does that count?
Yes, Woo is fucking rad. I love that.
Matt, have you heard them?
I didn't know. Is this a thing?
Yeah, you need to look them up. They are a Mongolian metal band. They actually did a song that's on the radio right now with the lead singer from Papa Roach.
No,
Jacoby Shaddix.
That is.
Oh yeah. You need to look them up though.
I wasn't going to mention that part, but I do. There is yes.
It's the only one in English. That's why I mentioned it.
The bassist plays a 2-string bass, and it's really good. I think you would really enjoy them. Just like I think
you need to give them a shot, Matt, for sure. Maybe
don't listen to the Jacoby Shaddix song.
That one. No,
that's not a song for you. But the rest of it, I think you would find fun. But while you're also avoiding Cambodian and Mongolian trolls on our Facebook group, check us out on Twitter and on what's that other thing? Instagram. Yeah, that one. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those. Try to keep up with some of the stuff we're reading. Try to post panels just to hey, puppies, kitties, and comic art should be what Instagram's filled with, and so we try to add our a little bit to that. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, maybe you're a Mongolian troll and you have taken umbrage. Maybe you're a Cambodian troll and you've taken severe umbrage at being called out. Fire us off an email or southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com, and we'll discuss the merits of your Mongolian and Cambodian trollism.
Why does their ethnicity count? Why can't they just be trolls?
Well, we're just talking about regions of the world, Craig. We're talking about our reach here. Reach.
Yes, I got you.
And I personally would like to know the Cambodian and Mongolian platform.
Yes, I want more. I just drew country. I just kind of picked a country out of my Rolodex in my brain. So
there you go.
Fun times. But yeah, so let's talk about some comics.
Yeah, let's do.
Let's get the Mongolians back on board with our podcast. We have short stacks. Am I mistaken? Actually, Craig? Tell the new listeners what a short stack is.
A short stack is a small stack of pancakes.
Right.
But in reference to the show, it's 3 books that each one of us have read, and we could have some overlap. That we read individually, not as a group, I should say, that we're going to just kind of tell you about and tell you why you should be reading them.
Yeah, stuff that's on our pull list stuff. Now, some of these books are going to be rather newish, and even though we're not going to go into a lot of detail on the short stacks, some spoilers may be dropped. But hey, this is a comic book, discussion show. I don't know, discussion and review show, and so spoilers kind of are inherently part of that. I'm trying to figure out how
give us way too much credit.
See, I want to give us more credit, Doctor.
I like how he hesitated on calling us a discussion. It's just like, no, it's a discussion.
Yeah. But he didn't want to go. He didn't want to call us critics because we definitely aren't that.
Critique, but hey, I think we do a fairly.
And I do want to confirm it is a comic book podcast, not a comic podcast.
That's
so
true.
If Ron White is your favorite comic, it may be the wrong podcast for you. But it might not be either. So listen and find out.
Yeah, maybe this is how we bridge we use the subversive word of comic to get stand-up comedy fans interested in comic books. And that's how they find our podcast group.
We are crossing genres here.
We are. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, spoilers. There's going to be spoilers. So if you hear something, that's your own fault because we've given you a warning. So but stick around.
It's your own fault. Yeah, fuck you.
You can't be mad at us because we warned you. We even said it like 4 times now. Spoiler warning. So can I go first?
Sure. Why the hell not?
Okay, I want to go first. So I actually had a fun week, and like Craig said, it was a relatively light week, but it was a good week. I am continuing my love affair with one Miss Kelly Thompson and her writing abilities by reading, Sabrina the Teenage Witch #2, which came out, and it was as good as #1. I continue to love this book. It's got also has one of my current favorite artistic duos in comics right now, Veronica and Andy Fish. I absolutely love what those folks are doing. Sabrina is continuing to deal with the fact that her aunts are doing things in secret and lying to her about it. There's a Wendigo involved. There's also a love affair, a tryst, if you will, and some hard decisions that are getting made. It's very CW. It's very teenagery, but it's fun. It tickles something within me that I enjoy. So it's lighthearted and good. A book that is good but is not lighthearted, that is also in my short stack, is the end of the current Lois Lane maxi series. Lois Lane #12 came out this past week and was written by Greg Rucka. It is drawn by Mike Perkins with colors by Andy Troy. If you are looking for escapism, this book is not for you. If you're looking for a book that is separated from the reality in which we currently find ourselves, this book is not for you. But if political intrigue and a tether to your reality through comics is what you want, plus a good detective story and a good journalist story that features Renee Montoya as the question, then 100% this book is for you. It was a great maxi series. Go check out all 12 issues. Get it in trade when it comes out. It's fun stuff. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then last but certainly not least is a book that is not a new book. It's a book that has been around for a while. And I'm curious to know if you guys have read it. It is a silent book. It is a book with no words. It is called Notes on a Case of Melancholia, or A Little Death by Nicholas Gurwitch. Have any of you heard of this?
I have not.
Is it about orgasms?
That was the same thought I had.
But I appreciate that reference. But no. Les Petites. No. So this was actually published by Dark Horse. And essentially what this is, it's a silent book about death, the character Death, seeing a therapist. Which is fun stuff.
Wait, I have read this.
Have you?
Yes.
I wondered if
yes.
I couldn't remember if you talked about it or not.
Yes. I have read this. It's about the child death.
Yeah.
Yeah, the child of death, yes.
So essentially, like what happens here is there's a therapist who should have died. He almost gets killed by a falling bookshelf, but he doesn't. And so Death is kind of pissed because it was supposed to happen. And so he starts talking to Death, and Death sits down on the couch and gets therapized. And it's fun stuff. It's quiet, but it's moving as all hell.
Yeah, it beautiful book.
Oh, gorgeous book.
Yeah.
So if you haven't read this, I encourage you to do so because it's fun stuff.
Sorry, I did not recognize the name of it.
Oh no worries.
I don't know why I didn't recognize the name of it, but yeah.
I too forget the little death sometimes. but I hear tell that's an important part of the game.
Yeah, you know.
Well, Matt, what's on your short stack this week, brother?
Well, also, despite the title, it's not about orgasms. I read X-Force number 10. This is by Benjamin Piercy, Joshua Cassara, and Guru Effects. This particular issue is just as strong as the run has been, but this one was, I found this particular issue to be pretty horrifying. The artwork in this one really comes through in illustrating the body horror. The body horror in this one was really disturbing to me. I was like, wow, okay, yeah. This is really something. It was very reminiscent of The Brood. Look it up, kids. Yeah. That story came out back in the late 80s, early 90s. But so yeah, I continue to push this series. If you need a little bit more extra selling, I got one phrase for you: too hot in the hot tub.
Oh,
yeah. It was a funny book too.
Too hot in the hot tub. If you need more reasons to read the book, this particular issue, that phrase definitely applies. Other than that, I read Batman number 94. Of course, the creative team on this, James Tynion IV. Let's see here.
Gilliam March.
Yeah, Gilliam March. This issue, this run has been good since Tynion took over, obviously. This issue got very interesting to me because what we have found out is that it feels like the story has taken a hard right turn into a Joker story.
Yep.
And I am really looking forward to where this is going, given what the Joker has pulled off, what he has done. I won't spoil it. But things just got, my interest level in the story just got ratcheted way up. Its hooks are in me.
Can I say something about this book real quick?
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Go ahead.
So I agree. This has actually been a really fun story. It has exceeded my expectations, and my expectations were really high to begin with. Thank
you for agreeing with me.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I absolutely love it. The only thing, there has been a character that I've kind of fallen in love with because I thought it was a really cool thing because he kind of has this anime-esque appearance, and he's one of the big bads all through this. That I'm kind of disappointed that he's not going to be there's a thing with that character, and he's not what you think he is. I really was hoping he was going to be one of those characters that really locks in and we would see more of in the future.
Yeah, that's what makes it so smart.
Yeah,
because he did lock you. He got your interest so peaked, only to take it away from you. That is really, really good writing. If you didn't miss him, it wouldn't be effective.
No,
so
absolutely.
Your feeling is exactly the way you should be feeling.
Yeah, he had his hooks in me, and it really worked. I think it was a very clever character design to begin with. That was my only thing. I absolutely agree. I'm going to back up now.
Yeah. So number 3, I was going to talk about the book from Image, Negan Lives. Of course, this is by Robert Kirkman and Charlie Adlard, however you want to pronounce that. So I wasn't a Walking Dead devotee. I read a lot of The Walking Dead and then just kind of fell off of it right after the Whisperers run. But I love the character Negan. So I made myself pick this one up, more out of curiosity than anything. I really enjoyed this book. I would recommend this to anybody that has a passing interest in The Walking Dead. And if you have a passing interest in The Walking Dead and you don't love the character Negan, I have no words for you. You and I shouldn't hang out.
I would say even if your only interaction with The Walking Dead is from the television show, you could still pick this book up and read it.
Yeah. So I really dug this issue. It was really fun to go back and revisit Negan. I much prefer, this is a Negan and his isolated Negan story. I much more prefer the Negan and the group dynamic. And I'd highly recommend this book.
Yeah, it was good.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan could put babies inside me. That is a sexy man.
I do not like his Negan.
I didn't like it. I didn't like his Negan either.
I quit watching the show.
It was his Negan, that got me out of the show.
I don't care about that character. I care about Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
You don't care about Negan, you son of a bitch.
I've read zero Walking Dead. Like as far as like comics version, I've never read an issue of The Walking Dead ever.
So Negan is just an amazing character, based his physical appearance and attitude based on Henry Rollins.
Nice. That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I too read Batman number 94, and the only thing I would add to it, to what you've already said, is that the takeoff was brilliant. I hope he sticks the landing to this upcoming Joker war that's coming, because this first arc was absolutely brilliant. Does anybody know, is March going to be the long-term artist on this book, or are we going to have a change every arc like we did during the Tom King run?
Didn't the change every arc with the Tom King thing happen because it was a weekly book, and they did that just because of the pacing?
I think it was bi-weekly or bi-monthly, however that works.
Yeah, I thought that was a schedule thing, not so much hey, let's just do this because we are who we are. Yeah. But to answer your question, I don't know. I don't know if March is the.
I don't know either, but I hope he's long term on here. And I guess Albuquerque did some of the art in the last issue as well. But
the Flash
that last issue, that last issue was just brilliant. So I also read Pretty Violent number 7 from Image Comics. Derek Hunter, Jason Young, and Spencer Holt. I've talked about this book before. It's a superhero story done in a Scotty Young style. It's very reminiscent of I Hate Fairyland, except it's in the superhero world. And the main character's name is Gamma Ray, and she actually was raised by supervillains, but has decided she wants to be a superhero, and all of the things that come with somebody that's inherently evil, as she's portrayed in the book, but wanting to do good. She doesn't understand why, punching somebody until their skin comes off is a bad thing.
Me either.
And then my third book is Something is Killing the Children, number 8 by Boom Studios. This is also a James Tynion book with Werther Deladera and Miguel Muerto doing the art and colors on this. This book has been really good since it launched. I think it was actually my book of the week on the menu book last week, and it does not ever let down. It's really a solid monster book, and everybody should pick it up. You could get the first volume, I'm sure, now, because this is the second book into the second arc. So pick it up, read it, enjoy.
It is
because you will.
I want to say the trade is already out, is it not?
I'm sure the trade is out.
Yeah.
For the first volume.
That's how I'm planning on reading this.
Yeah, it's really good. You won't be disappointed, I promise you. And if you are, contact Caleb, because he's the guy with the money back guarantee.
Shit. That's cute. As in, you won't get no money back, guaranteed. Those are good books all around, guys. I love the Batman collusion that y'all had going on. That was cute.
Yeah, well, it was a good book.
It was. It really was. I'm super digging this, and it's kind of got me back into like looking forward to it. Also thought it was neat. I don't know if you guys noticed this, that Green Lantern, or not Green Lantern, Detective Comics tied into it last week as well.
Well, it's I did notice that, and we're actually it's going to be a crossover event, but I don't believe you're going to have to read all the different titles to understand what's going on in the Joker War.
Nah, I'm looking forward to this.
Yep, me too.
There just hasn't been a lot of crossover between Detective and Batman in the past. Like, there's been a little bit, but not in the past 2 years or so. And so I thought it was neat that there was a bridge there.
So our buddy Castro brought up a good point that Joker is back to wearing his pink purple suit, which he hasn't in the comics in a long time. And wondering if that's bringing us back to this being the original Joker and just how long he's been hidden.
My only fear is that they are going, because I agree, my only fear is that they are going to ruin it by doing this whole 3 Joker storyline bullshit that's been floating in the wings for the past however long. And that's the reason why they're showing that, because they are establishing, again, multiple versions of this character, and they're still talking about it, like in all the DC stuff. Like on people.
Well, there's a Black Label 3 Joker stuff coming out, so
I'm hoping that is all it is. I would love it if that did not interfere with the main books, but because that was established when Bruce sat in the Mobius chair.
Yeah.
I can't help but feel like it's gonna interfere, and that's.
I think what you're gonna see is probably a wiping out of the quote-unquote fake Jokers with just the real Joker left. That's what I think is going to happen.
Can we get that trending? Hashtag fake Joker?
Yeah. Let's do it. Nice. Matt, get it started.
Matt Done. Being the social media connoisseur that he is.
Yeah. I'm dropping I wrote hashtag what you just said, and I just put it. And then I'm putting it in the mailbox as we speak.
It's written on his dry erase marker board. Hey, look, it's trending.
Oh my god!
Well, I love hearing how much we all enjoyed these books. That's fun times. Now, a new book came out this past week that we all, I think, were excited about. Kind of ready to get our hands on and revisit, and we all read it, and we're going to talk about it. You guys ready to do that?
Shit, was I supposed to read a book?
Maybe.
Crap. Okay. I'll fake it.
Les Petite Death. See, look how we came full circle there. That was nice.
Yeah.
No, there is a new book on the shelves now. It's a new #1 that we would encourage everyone, or at least I would encourage everyone to go grab. It's fun stuff. And that is The Goddamned #1, The Virgin Brides #1. This is the second chapter in Jason Aaron, r.m.Guera, and Giulia Brusco's kind of retelling of the first. I'm trying to think about Genesis. How to say this. Yeah, it's a retelling of Genesis, of the biblical first days of mankind. A reimagining and a retelling of that.
So I'm going to interrupt for a second.
Okay.
So maybe I don't understand. So this whole premise of Jason Aaron's, this world, the goddamned, happened. This is the world that exists right before the flood.
Right.
So is that Genesis?
Yes.
All that.
The flood is in Genesis.
Well, because from what I understand, when I read his back matter from the first Goddamned run, these are stories that come out of the period in the Bible that's not spoken about. It's only spoken in like one sentence where, God decided to flood the world because it had become so wicked.
Yes. So in the Bible, it talks a little bit about this, what this title is when it says that the sons of God came and mated with the daughters of man.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what this arc is going to be about.
So the Great Flood starts off in Genesis chapter 7. That's when the Noah story really kicks out. all of this kind of takes place in the and you're right. It's very little is written about this, and most of it comes from uh, non-biblical exploration of other texts and apocrypha and that kind of thing. But essentially, this happens in the days where Adam. What we know of Adam, biblically speaking, is Adam had three sons. He had Cain, Abel. One of those two didn't make it. Spoilers, go figure out for yourself which one it was. And then he had another son named Seth, that is also kind of a one-liner. But after that, it says that Adam went into the world and bore many fruits, and the seed of his seed mated with the women, which also makes you kind of wonder where did those other women come from, but that's neither here nor there. So all of this kind of takes place in that realm. So before the seventh chapter of Genesis is kind of the world that these two are dancing in.
Yes, got it.
Yeah, really, really cool and kind of untread territory in comics. I mean, there's been some that have been written about it, but most of the time when anything biblical gets spoken about, it's it always defaults to Jesus,
or Moses,
yeah,
or Abraham,
Charlton Heston.
Yes.
So that first arc was essentially, I mean, the antagonist was Moses.
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't. That was a lie.
It was
Noah.
Cain.
It was Noah. I thought. Well, yeah, it was Cain walking through,
was,
but he does he not meet Noah? I need to go back and read.
Yeah, it was Noah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Noah, Moses. There's too many characters in that book.
Wait.
In the Bible, you're talking
about?
Or
yeah.
Okay.
It's a narrative mess.
It's a big book.
Says the guy who stands for Dune. So
hey.
All right, so let's talk about this book though. Because before we get into it, as always, I would love to know if you guys thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down. What'd you think?
Thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big thumbs up. This was. It's hard to read because of what the content is happening in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. What?
Well, I mean, I don't. Do you want me to go into that before we discuss it? I can.
Let's wait. Let's wait and do the narrative.
Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As they say.
Yeah. So, but I absolutely love the narrative of the story, and it does go off of like 3 lines out of the Bible, and you're going to get this whole story arc from it.
Specifically, and I agree. Like, thumbs way up. I love this creative team. I love the first book.
Right.
I love everything about it. Specifically, this comes out of Genesis 6:4, which reads, "The sons of God came unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them." Now, think about that. The sons of God, the daughters of men. That's where all of this wraps out of. So essentially, the story takes off. Gorgeously, just page after page of gorgeousness. There's a small village, and this village is essentially, it's matriarchal, or however you say that. I say that wrong. Matriarchal.
You're close enough.
Yeah, and the fact that there are no men in this village. The village is ran by what's called the old mothers, and it's where the young girls come before they have reached what we'll consider womanhood, before they've had their first period. And so they come here, and they're essentially, it's kind of like the ladies in waiting idea, is they are here until they reach womanhood, in which they will be shipped off to their quote unquote betrothed, and they'll be married off. Now, who they'll be married off to, they don't know. They don't know who, or hence the things come, what they will be married off to. But they're, these young girls are all excited because it's this. It's kind of ran. I say they're excited. Some of them are excited. Some of them are like, "Oh, this is my calling in life. This is what I was, this is what I exist for. I'm going to get to be married, and it's going to be wonderful." And the other girls are not so sure about it. They are kind of the more inquisitive and the questioning ones. Well, on this particular day that the story's set on, these warrior women come down from the mountain that kind of borders the little village, and like they are warrior women. They come down, they are ironclad, they are battled, they are scarred. You can tell that they have been through the ringer. Their armor exposes their breasts, and they're carrying shield. Kind of a Roman-esque look to it, into the way that they move and operate. but they come down and they are kind of questioning the old mothers, and they're saying, "Hey, we heard a rumor on the mountain that one of the brides to be is flowered, that she has come into womanhood. Is this true?" And the old crones say, "Yeah, this is absolutely true." And she's ready to go. And the warrior woman says, is her virginity intact? Has she been touched by the hands of men? And the old crone says, no, absolutely not. So they take this young girl and they lead her up. It's kind of a bridal party ceremony. They've got her all adorned in white, and she comes out of almost like the parting of the willow branches. This very beautiful scene. She has just reached womanhood. Like in real life, this girl, 10 to 12, maybe. And she's getting ready to go be married, which is, I think, what Craig was saying. That's kind of the difficult part to read into it, because we still view these people as children, and by today's standards. But she's handed over to the warrior woman, and she's marched up to the mountain. And as they march into the mountain, no one else from the original village gets to go to this. No one else is allowed to accompany them, and so the warrior tribe walks her up to the edge of a cliff, and she's standing there and she's like, "Hey, have you seen my groom? Has my groom sees me? Do you think I'm pretty enough for him? Like, can you tell me about him?" And the warrior women just say, "Hey, shut up and don't speak unless spoken to." Like, they're very cold, and they're very aloof. Well, they march her up to the edge of this cliff, and she's this young child. She's very questioning. She doesn't know what's happening. She thought she was coming up here to meet a man, to be married, and now she's standing on this kind of Lion King-esque cliff and looking into the sky, and she's wondering, what's about to happen, what's going on here. And the sky kind of opens up, and this by the description, this gleaming creature of pure light starts to come down here. And turns out she wasn't being betrothed to a man at all. She's being betrothed to an angel, and they brought her up here to be taken by an angel in wedlock, which means, of course, sex. And you don't see any of that in the book, but you know it's happening. And as the mists kind of close in, literally mists, you just kind of hear a scream as this young girl is narrating the fact that she's just seen an angel, and they're essentially off panel. Their wedlock is being consummated. But this scream travels, right? It travels back down to the village, and it's heard by a couple of young girls who are still kind of waiting. They have not been married off yet. And as they're working in the fields, they're collecting their grain and their fruits, and they're getting ready to. They're essentially orphans that are being raised in a nunnery, which is, I think, a good way to think about it, even though nunneries don't exist at this time. But the old crones are very much supposed to be that stereotypical hard as rocks, old gravelly nun who, if you're caught talking, will slap you and beat you with a ruler or something like that. Like, that's essentially the world we're living in. But as they're talking, these two young girls, Lillian and Jael, Jael, they're friends. They're trying to figure out what's going on. But Lillian was the girl that got shipped off. I'm sorry, I'm mixing my names up here. As Jael and Sherry,
don't do it again, man. Get your shit together.
Slapping myself on the wrist, right? The two young girls are Jael and Sherry, and they're not sure what's going on. Sherry swears she heard a scream, and she swears it's Lillian, but Sherry's not. Jael's not convinced of it, but she's just trying to make it through the world. Because she doesn't want to live like this. She doesn't want to be betrothed, and she's keeping a secret. And her secret is that she's already gotten her period. She's already, quote unquote, flowered, as the language of this book says, but she's been able to hide it. And so she's more worried about what's going to happen to her. She doesn't really have time to worry about Lillian and to deal with Sherry's guilt trip or shit or fear as they're trying to make it through this world and also survive the nuns. But as they go to sleep that night, as they're getting ready for bed, the nuns kind of, I guess this is the nightly ritual. The old women, the old mothers, line all the young girls up and they strip them naked, and they're looking at their bodies and they're trying to decide, to make sure that nothing is going on. They're seeing how these young women are developed. They're being treated like chattel. If you take a step back, and of course these young girls don't realize that, but they're being inspected like they are for market. Like you would inspect, fruit to see if a fruit is right, or you would inspect a beast of burden, a cow.
Yeah, this is the stuff that made it hard for me to read.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's not good narrative or a good story. It's just the content of the story is not necessarily, positive.
No, for sure.
Story.
As I was reading this, I was like, oh, this is cringy, but it's supposed to be. Like
Exactly.
It's supposed to show you how terrible and how these women are being viewed, and honestly, how women have been viewed for generation after generation.
Since the dawn of time.
Meant to put you in a bad headspace and make you think that these are also women doing this to young girls. Like these are despicable creatures. And so essentially after this, and it's bedtime and they go to sleep, our girl Jael has a nightmare. And in this nightmare, the metaphor of flowering comes into being. Like flowers white flowers start sprouting from her skin. And of course they're covered in blood. And when she wakes up, she goes and she gets with her little buddy, and they said, no, like, I was also awakened by the screams. I heard it was Lillian. We've got to sneak up there and find what's going on. Of course, this is dangerous as all hell, right? They're not supposed to leave the confines. They're supposed to be under lock and key all the time. They're not supposed to question anything. This is supremacy at its most extreme. They are not to have their own personalities. They are only meant to be wed. And so they sneak out of the village and they start sneaking up the mountain. And as they get up there, they start to look around and they see one of them sees Lillian. And she's kind of walking back to the cliff. But as she's walking back to the cliff, and there's a cave off in the distance, and there's all these screams. And a woman is going into labor in this cave. And Lillian walking up, and Jael kind of comes over to her, and she's just like, hey Lillian, what are you doing? But Lillian is, the lights are on, but nobody's home. And she walks up to the cliff and she jumps off. And the other one has walked over to the mouth of the cave, the other young girl, and Sherry is just like, hey, like looking in there and see what's going on. And she sees this woman going into labor, going into just, she's screaming. It's not a good labor. And as she starts to look around, she starts to realize that they're not alone in this cave. There are these other women, these other things in there. And there are these children who are not quite children. Right. There is something else going on here. And so they sneak back down. They get the hell out of Dodge. Lillian's a lost cause. She's gone. And so as they get back down to the village and they go back to sleep, something else happens. And I'm not going to say what it is, but it pretty much solidifies that these two young girls, they're going to make a run for it. They're getting out of here.
Yeah.
They're going to leave. So with that being said, that's the story.
Right.
I don't know how to put into adequate words how truly just breathtaking and awestruck I am at every single page of r.m.Guera's work in this book. Be it the landscapes or the way that the people are drawn, the way that the design of the warriors, page after page after page of this is just, I don't know that I have the adequate vocabulary. I mean, I could try to link it to other artists that I've seen, which unsurprisingly, and I think I'm becoming a person who just kind of does this. There's a taste of Eduardo Risso in here, not overburdening, but I tend to like the art that I love. I can see people like Risso's art in this, and I think there's a little bit of that in Guera's work. There's a little bit of Jeff Darrow in here. Not a lot, just a taste. Just gorgeous stuff. The colors were absolutely what they needed to be. Everything is muted. Everything are these earth tones. Even the blues are not. Nothing in this book is vibrant. Everything is kind of low key to really hit home. I say that the colors. The colors are low key. Speaking only about the colors.
If somebody were to ask me to describe the art in this book in relation to other artists, I would say it's a combination of Mobius and Jeff Darrow.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would go with that. Yeah, it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. Whatever artist you want to compare it to, just know that it's absolutely beautifully drawn. I got the feeling that
he spent a little bit more time on the backgrounds in this book than he did the previous arc.
Absolutely.
Well, I think the world is more developed at this time in the story of Genesis.
Well, and
so
it
it's
may
quite
very
possible that it has to do with that as well.
and it very well just maybe where the story is set. I mean, the first story was set in the wasteland,
Right.
and this is much more of a hilly, rocky area.
Yeah.
But man, this is a book. Good night. I'd really like to know how long it took him to do each issue, because there's a hell of a lot of detail in this book, and especially when it comes to background. But I couldn't agree more. The character designs are just incredible. The character designs are great, and just the way he tells a story, the way he puts the panels together, the characters' positions and facial expressions are just great. I really, really hope that we see more of this guy's art in the future. Of course, I know he's a Spanish artist. So he works remotely. So I'm assuming we're not going to see him just a whole bunch in American comics because he's so rooted in European. But that's a shame.
Well, you've read his other works with I know you've read Goddamn #1, but you've read Scalped too, right?
It is on my list to read still. I have not got around to it.
Did he do Scalped?
Yeah, he did Scalped.
Okay, I guess I'd forgotten that.
I'm not sure if he did. I know he did at least some of the covers. I don't know if he did the interior art. But,
that does not sound right to me. I'm gonna have to.
Let's see. Let me go to Google.
So while you're doing that, there's 2 more verses that go along with this line with these first 2 verses.
No, sorry. Yep, he did. Sorry. Go ahead.
And that is basically, it tells you that in those days on Earth there were giants, and that the children of the offspring of the sons of God and daughters of men were mighty men, which are of old, men of renown. So basically, this is very much a take from Roman mythology that was put into our Bible, where the gods had children with men or women and mortals, and their children were heroes. And it's very much a take on that. So it's interesting to see where they're going with that in this book.
Yeah, demigods.
Yeah.
As bad guys.
Yeah.
Which, not that the Roman ones were, shining.
Some were good guys and some were bad guys.
Even Hercules in the real stories is an asshole. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, very few of the Roman gods very few of them are not assholes, because that's they operate above humanity and treat humanity as, weak, I guess you would say. Right. So, I mean, it's,
So it's an interesting comparison, because I know a lot of people believe that the offspring were the giants of old, but according to this verse, they're also they're men of renown. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're both the monsters and the heroes that save humanity from the monsters.
There's so much content in those first few chapters of Genesis that is obscure.
Right.
I would say that it is ambiguous, and that it is ripe for telling stories, especially mythological.
That's right.
And Jason Aaron is one of the best people to tell those stories. Like when I got giddy, when I got so excited about the fact that he was writing Conan, it was because I'd read the first Goddamned. I was just like, okay, here we go. And I think the editors or the powers that be at Marvel probably rode the brake a little bit on what he was able to do, because what I thought we were going to get is not what we got. Inevitably, I liked what we got. But I think that I wish he had kept writing Conan, because I think that there are some stories that Conan could have that really feature a lot of this work. And can you imagine, give me r.m.Guera drawing Conan?
Ooh, man.
Right?
Yeah.
Fun fact. Also, r.m.Guera is Serbian, and I just learned that by Google. And I'm now glad I didn't talk about, I said Cambodians, not Serbians. And he might listen to this.
Well, man, that was a bullet dodged, wasn't it?
Right? Sweating over here. So you were talking about the background stuff, and as I'm flipping back through here, one thing that I noticed is the drawings on the rocky structures. Like there are cave paintings on the rocky structures, and I didn't notice that. I thought it was just texture,
Mm-hmm.
but as I looked, like they're actually formations. Another thing that I think is really important to put out, and I don't know if this is a move on both of their parts or if maybe Aaron left him a note, but this is essentially this is the earliest days. This is the what's considered the cradle of civilization. So it's got to be what we call modern day Iraq. It's got to be along those Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which we think of as deserts now, but at the time they were just these these lush vegetative places. But it's where humanity sprung forth at, or at least civilization sprung forth at. In that area. And so if you look at the girls, especially during the wedding scenes, they are all different races.
Yeah.
There are people that we would consider Asiatic. It looks like there are some people who would probably be Arabic. There's some Caucasian people in there, what we would consider Proto-Europeans. Just all over the place. And I thought that was brilliant. I love to see that mixture because
Well, at this point in time, there should be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and there should be all throughout every book now, because that's what society mostly looks like now too. But especially here, like that, it made me feel really like I appreciated that in a big way because he really is getting into the fact that this is where it all started. This is where it stems from.
That's right.
And it was just brilliant. I still love that they, like I said, the design of the bare-breasted warrior women. Some of my favorite thing in this book. Like that. That's just badass. Just everything about this book. I cannot wait for the second issue. I can't wait to see where these girls, where they go, where they run off to. I'm not normally a fan of a dream sequence, but this book did a dream sequence, did it extremely well. Just fucking 5 out of 5 stars on my end.
Dream sequence or prophetic sequence. Either way, it was done really well.
Yeah.
And 5 out of 5 for me as well. There was no doubt I was going to keep up on this book, but definitely going to stay on it.
Something I want to mention is the lettering in this book too.
Yeah.
The lettering is it's got its own style, and it really adds to the feeling of the book. It's definitely not standardized lettering.
No, and it's one of those things that you notice for the good, because normally, like I said, we've said this 1,000 times. When you see a letter, and this one, the letter was done by Jared K. Fletcher, who I'm not personally familiar with, but maybe I need to be. But normally when you notice lettering, it's for a bad reason. And in this one, it was just, that's gorgeous calligraphy. Just awesome. Also, one of the things that I love the most is that Guerra and Brusco sign each page. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
I did not.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's always been a thing.
Yep, he did in the first one. I noticed it in the first arc.
I don't think I noticed that in the first arc. That to me is rad. Like I love that because each page is in fact a work of art. It is brilliant.
Yeah, but what really stood out to me is he, put Aaron's name on there along with his on every page.
Oh, was that? I thought that was Brusco's name. Is that Aaron's name?
So he writes Aaron and then r.m.Guera on every page.
Okay, I didn't look close enough. I thought that was Brusco's name. My bad. Dude, I see it now on the Scream page. It reads out really well. Everything about this book is so awesome. Like this is go pick this book up.
It's metal.
It is metal. Hey, fun fact, and I don't know if you guys know this or not, but before we get too far away, those mountains and those rocks that are in the and really the first part of the story, they're kind of featured almost cathedral-esque in their design. Now this isn't written into the book, but Jason Aaron dropped a little hint, a little Easter egg, if you will. Those are actually moon rocks.
You jerk.
Yeah. I was going to let it go in this episode.
And
not talk about that. At least he's not doing, Norse mythology, so I don't have to worry about him fucking up Thor.
Well, that's no fun. Don't do that. So, I mean,
I do agree with what you said about the fact that there's so much room to play in this timeline in the Bible, because you're talking about 4 or 5 lines that could be translated any number of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take 4 or 5 lines from this time frame and do whatever you want to with it. You know, and he's doing it, and so far I'm liking.
Well, that's what I think is so brilliant about it. Like, so my dad, for those of you who have not kept, or who maybe are new to the show or just don't know in general, or who haven't read my biography, as you should have. Who doesn't do that? I'm fucking me. My dad's a preacher, right? Like, my dad is a pastor. I grew up inundated in the Bible, like verse by verse. Like, it was mandatory reading night after night after night. Like, we didn't miss a day. I've read that book in its entirety, front and back, at least 4 times. The phrase, the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men. We always assumed that, you know, everybody's the son of God. Like, you know, Christ is not the son of God, but we're all children of God. Like, and everybody assumed, okay, they're talking about men. The brilliance of taking that and going in a different direction with it in just that one thing and creating an entire narrative, like, that's genius.
I have always understood sons of God to be angels.
Really?
Yeah.
I never thought about that because we were always, I guess, and again, depends on where you grew up at.
When it talks about sons of God in the Bible,
mm-hmm.
It's almost always talked about as angels. Or there is a different interpretation that they are the offspring of Seth.
See, but angels were created before men.
Yes.
But anyway, like, we were always kind of taught that the angelic beings were sexless. That's why they couldn't have offspring, and that was why men and women were meant to be. And this is, of course, heteronormative.
It's one of those confusing things in the Bible because it does also talk about them being sexless. But
and that's because you're talking about revisionist history years later. But I mean, I like digress. Like, I just never thought about that. So again, just truly brilliant. Truly brilliant work. So if you're not on this, go find the first arc, read it, take it into yourself, like it's an angel on your wedding day, accept it into your heart, and then go find this first issue and get ready because it's coming for you. Yeah,
for sure. You definitely need to read this. I would say if you like mythology at all,
mm-hmm.
this is an interesting way to tackle Christian or Judaism mythology.
And it's a nice kind of, I'm trying to think of the right words to use, so I don't want to sound like I'm saying one is bad and the other is good. It is a nice turn from the Judeo-Christian aspects that we've been getting from Mark Russell, who I think is equally brilliant, and I love reading all of his work. But this, like, there's no comedy in this, and there's no snark in this. It's just a different type of narrative. But both rooted in biblical understanding.
Yeah. I mean, this is like the polar opposite of what Mark Russell's trying to do. Mark Russell's trying to illustrate the positivity of Jesus's actual message, and
the misinterpretation.
This is trying to paint the picture of how disgusting the world got that led to God wanting to wipe it out.
A flood. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I just like when I think of things rooted in biblical narratives, and of course this is not trying to be snark. This is not trying to. Well, I'm looking for a word here and I can't find it. Anyway,
we're not going to build you out.
Satire. Sorry. Mark Russell is writing satire. This is not satire, but it is great to see two things existing in the different genres of literature being written. Biblically from somebody who understands those things and grew up with those things. It makes me happy. So I likes it. Well, what did you guys read this week? I'm curious. I want to know because I don't think we read the same things.
Yeah, I'll go next if you want me to.
Yeah,
I read a little book called The Last Day in Vietnam by Will Eisner. Now, he did all of this book, so you know it's beautiful because it's Will Eisner, and there's a reason why they name awards after him. But this was published by Dark Horse Comics. It's got, I think, 8 stories in it that are all from his days as a journalist in Vietnam. And I'm going to talk about the first story, which is the story is the one that the title of the book pulls its name from, which is The Last Day in Vietnam. And this is the story of a journalist who we can assume is Eisner, because he does say all of these come from his memory. All of these are real stories that come from his memory from when he was over there. The journalist is being escorted around the base, which is the headquarters and the surrounding area, by a major who has gotten this assignment because it's also his last day on his tour. So he's set to ship out in the morning. The major takes the journalist to a chopper so they can travel around. Once in the chopper, they stop and they pick up some men who barely speak to either the major, the journalist, or let alone themselves. The chopper takes and drops them off at another drop-off point. And then the major begins to tell his story about how he had joined the National Guard thinking that there was no way we were going back to war so soon after Korea, and proceeds to get married. And then a month later, he's been transferred from the Guard to the Army as being shipped off to Vietnam.
Yeah, he lost that bet.
Yeah, he lost that bet big time. And he is actually one of the lucky ones because he's a headquarter type officer more than a frontline officer. So he has spent his entire tour at headquarters and not really out in the field. But yet he's leaving as a major, and he hopes to get assigned to the infantry school back home, which I think is a weird place to hope to get assigned when you actually never saw any battle. But that's what he's hoping for. And so they land at a small forward base in the Delta, where the reporter is introduced to a group of soldiers prepping for an offensive. And after they give them a little bit of a hard time, the forward base is attacked, starts getting shelled by the North Vietnamese. And this base is right near the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. Wow, that was hard to say. Which was considered the front line of most of the war. And so they get bombed. They're getting shelled. So of course the major's trying to get out of there. He hasn't seen much battle, and he just wants to get back to headquarters. Hell, he leaves in the morning. And so he's trying to get them off the base. And they're like, yeah, there's no flights leaving till tomorrow. And he starts arguing with the guy, and he's like, listen, I'm a major. Don't talk to me that way. And the guy says, okay, there's no flights leaving till the morning, sir. And, so he kind of resigns himself to the fact that he's not going to be able to get back to headquarters and leave in the morning, and his tour is going to at least be a day longer, when the journalist happens to notice a chopper idling out on the tarmac. So they run out to the chopper and kind of hijack it. I mean, they don't fly it off. The pilot's in it. They jump in, and the pilot takes off, and as luck would have it, he's actually heading to headquarters. So they catch a ride back to headquarters. It was a fun, beautiful, not fun. It's a story that really looks at life in one day in Vietnam. And this book has like 8 of those. One about a guy getting a Purple Heart. There's one that's told from a South Vietnamese man's eyes. It's a really interesting read if you have any sort of desire to learn about the history of the Vietnam War, which I find to be an interesting time in American history for a lot of reasons. Without getting too political, I find that entire time in American history to just be fascinating. So I just happened to be sitting at the local comic book store this week on Wednesday, and I looked over and just saw this sitting on the shelf, just kind of laying there. It wasn't even standing up. It was just laying sideways on the shelf. And I just reached over and picked it up, and I was not disappointed. This particular one comes with a foreword by Matt Fraction, which was a good read, and then it has an introduction with Will Eisner where he talks about his time in Vietnam.
Yeah.
So it definitely, absolutely beautiful. There's a reason why Will Eisner's name, again, is attached to awards in the comic industry. And, 10 minutes of flipping through this book, and you would understand why. There's no color in it. It's all pencils and inks, but absolutely just a beautiful book.
Craig, do you I don't know if it says in the back matter or anything, but do you happen to know when he actually wrote the stories? I mean, I know it takes place in the '60s, but do you know when he actually put pen to
Let
paper?
me look and see if it has that in here, Caleb,
Well,
because I
yeah.
don't know. Let me get back to you on that.
Okay. The reason I ask is one of my favorite Eisner books. I mean, look, like you said, Eisner, he's the grandfather of comics
Right.
in many ways. He's the man who invented the graphic novel. He is the shoulders on which a lot of us, or everybody who kind of it loves comics rides on. But one of my favorite works that he did is not the Spirit. It's not a conversation with God. It's actually a book that he did later in his life when he was in his 90s. And it's called New York, the Big City, and it's kind of the same format. It's this slice of life book with these little 2 or 3, 4 page stories that just
Right.
it's him walking around New York and him talking about what it's like in New York and the noises that he hears and the people that he sees and the conversations that take place on the stoops and kind of the it's not the tourist version of New York. It's the
Well,
I live in New York.
that's essentially what this is, because
Mm-hmm.
none of them are really battle heavy. They all just kind of tell you different stories with different people,
Mm-hmm.
and just his take on dealing with them and actually seeing the country.
Yeah.
It looks like this was put together in graphic novel form in 2000.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if the individual stories were ever released separately from that, but it looks like it was put together in 2000.
Well, and I know that there's been a couple of like Eisner notebooks, like comics that were found in Eisner's notebooks that have been compiled and published posthumously, obviously. But
Right.
and I
Well,
wondered if
this
this
was
was one of them.
re-released in 2014 by his estate,
Okay, yeah,
but it was originally put together, it looks like I said, in 2000. But
gotcha.
yeah, it's very much that slice of life throughout the Vietnam War, and
They,
taken from different perspectives and different people. And he is the journalist who never speaks in this
hmm
book. He observes, and like for instance, in the story that I just shared with you, the major does all the speaking. Like he points at the chopper, and the major's like, "Oh yeah, look, there's a helicopter. Let's go." So it's it's done through his lens, but not through his voice,
yeah, he's a
which I thought,
flaneur.
which I thought was an interesting way to do it.
That's my favorite Eisner stories are like that.
Yeah,
Where he's just and like I said, he's a flaneur. He's walking and he's telling you what's happening through his eyes, and
that's
it's
right.
just gorgeous.
And yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, even the cover on this thing is just absolutely beautiful. It captures, because Vietnam's absolutely, it's a beautiful country.
hmm
It's green, it's jungle, lush vegetation, and he captures that even without colors.
It's interesting. I watched a film that just came out, it's a Spike Lee joint called The Five Bloods, and it's a good Spike Lee film. Which there's a range of what you get with Spike Lee. Essentially, uh, it's these
Please don't
four.
make me watch the Spike Lee joints next.
Well, no, but if you get a chance, you should watch this one. Narratively speaking, it's kind of throwing darts at a wall. Like he's got 5 different stories going at once. There's a lot to it, but it's these 4 black Vietnam vets that go back and they're telling the story of black men in the Vietnam War. But they're going back older in their age. They're going back in present time, and there's reasons why, which I won't get into. But
Yeah.
they mention that too. They're like, this is like they get back and they're surprised at how gorgeous the country is. Um,
I mean, yeah, it's absolutely beautiful.
um, they also make a
It,
really interesting comment that they shouldn't have sent soldiers. They should have just sent Walmart and McDonald's over there, and the war would have ended a lot sooner, and we would have won. Which I thought was
Say
great commentary.
commercialism to beat the communism.
Yeah, I thought that was great commentary. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so if you get a chance, check it out. Like I said, it's not the best. Like there are parts of the movie that I could have done without, but the Vietnam stuff is really interesting, and there's a lot of good introspective there.
Yeah. I would recommend anybody that's got, number one, an interest in beautifully drawn work. Number two, a kind of voyeuristic look at a time in our country that maybe isn't the most proud time of our country.
hmm
Uh, pick it up and read it, because you'll see it from different points of view, which I think is always important when you have eras of time that are controversial.
Right.
Read it through different lenses, because not everybody that was involved for the right or wrong reason.
Yep. Well put, buddy. Well put.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
It doesn't end with the Punisher?
No, it did not. The Punisher did not, believe it or not, did not come to Will Eisner's Vietnam. I know Matt's completely disappointed to hear that, but that did not happen in this Vietnam.
For the record, I have read many Vietnam narratives that do not feature the Punisher.
No, really.
Yeah, Vietnam is one of the more interesting military conflicts in American history to me.
It really is. Same. I can't. Yeah, I have to agree completely, and it's because of all of the politics that go on behind the scenes too. Not to mention, it was just a different type of warfare than we had been used to fighting.
Yeah, for me, it's a combination of all the things that were involved, the politics behind, the way the war was fought, the individual soldiers' experience, the way the enemy engaged American forces. I mean, it's just all these things make that conflict very unique in American history. And yeah, I've read a lot about the Vietnam War, and I've watched a lot of documentaries and then fictional narratives on Vietnam because it is fertile ground.
You want me to put this book aside for you, Matt?
I would like to look at that book, yes.
All right, I'll put it aside for you.
Damn right you would. That era in general, because I mean, not even what was happening in Vietnam, but like what was happening in the American sphere, and I include Vietnam in that because obviously, but like the Summer of Love was taking place, the musical revolution coming out of Britain was taking place, the musical revolution coming out of the United States, McCarthyism, like everything about that little bubble in time is in some ways terrifying, but also is.
It's terrifying, but there's also a ray of hope there because as dark as that time was in American history, we somewhat came out of it.
Yeah.
And it gives me hope for what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So, you can find the positives in it too.
And that positive is usually Jimi Hendrix.
The music was definitely the positive of the 60s.
Yeah. Well, the entertainment industry as a whole, was really revolutionizing, or you could say at least evolving at that time between music, movies, and television. It's when, that's when things really started popping to me. As far as what I like, a lot of people was like, oh my gosh, the corruption of culture.
I'm just, I'm laughing because Matt Trogdon used the phrase, it was popping to me.
Yeah. Was it hot and popping?
Was it lit fam?
Yeah. Lit fam, hot and popping. Hashtag.
Matt, what did you read this week that was hot and popping? That was lit fam?
It was Dead Body Road, Bad Blood from Image Comics. This is the number 1 from Justin Jordan, Benjamin Tiesma, and Matt Lopez. This was dope ass as well. This is a story. So this is I don't know, what would you call this? A follow-up to the first Dead Body Road arc, seemingly unrelated to that arc. The first arc came out in 2014. A different artist, Justin Jordan story, different artist. That one was Matt Scalera. That was a revenge story. Really dug it. And these are crime stories. These are not supernatural or superpowered in any way. These are street level crime. First one I really dug. Really cool. So that's why I was really excited about this arc, because I like the first one so much. I didn't read any previews about this arc. I didn't need to. I was going to buy it anyway. And I didn't want to know what this one was about going in. So this one really impressed me, more so than I thought I would be, because this one has a female protagonist. It's a female protagonist in a crime story, me likey. And it is the story of a woman who is running a small bar in what feels like the outskirts of a small town. she has a reputation. You get the feeling she has a reputation, like she used to be rough character, and she's kind of put that life behind her and is now running this bar, and she runs a no nonsense outfit. You kind of get the feeling of Roadhouse when you read this, like it's occupied by the rough types. But if the rough types act rough, they get kicked out. She's no nonsense. Really cool to watch that exchange, and when you're first getting into this story.
Mm-hmm.
But what becomes apparent, the setting of this story, is that her brother is still very much into the criminal lifestyle, and he is run afoul of a local crime leader, and he's on the run. And the local crime, we'll just call him the local crime lord, sends one of his minions out.
Can we call him LCL for short?
LCL?
Local crime lord.
I'm not doing that.
I'm messing
Also,
with you, dude.
Also, Lewis Craig Lance.
Yeah, is that too?
Yeah. So the local crime boss sends, see what I just did there? Sends his minion out to see her to find out where the brother is. She, of course, turn over the brother, and shenanigans incur. Really great story. Very well illustrated. The art feels very right for this kind of story. And I like once again, Justin Jordan exceeds at character development. I like that the local crime boss is an old white guy. I like that the minion he sends is an old white guy. These are not the young, upstart young Turks. And
they would be free tonight if they were, though.
What?
No one gets going to get that reference but me. Young Turks be free tonight. Never mind. Keep going. Old man reference.
That sounds like what that sounds like is a poor taste in music reference. Am I right?
It is a poor taste in music reference, yes.
So, John Mellencamp aside, Craig.
It's Rod Stewart, but
same thing.
Okay.
So the way he writes this woman, I really, really like. She's got a very understated, tough attitude. She's not boisterous or braggy. She's just got a very understated, tough attitude. There's one particular panel that I really, really liked. And she is, dispatching, a local, one of the local ne'er-do-wells. And he calls her the most derogatory word you can when it comes to a woman. And her response really made me laugh out loud. Her response was, yeah. As she is dispatching this guy. And I freaking loved that. Like, it was really nice that, it's like, yep, I've heard that a million times.
Yeah. it's not offended by it.
Yeah. She's like, that is a tired old thing that I've heard way too many times. Is where that comes across. So I freaking love this story. I can't wait to see where this is going. I want to see more of this character.
So a fun fact about the Dead Body Road books is they take place in Justin Jordan's local area that he actually lives. And so all of the background places, the bars, all of those things are actual places of existence.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't think I actually knew that. That's
he actually made a comment about it when this issue was kind of getting ready to come out, that flipping back through the first volume, how he had kind of forgot he had done that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember him saying that now that you mention it.
Yeah.
So I read this too, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. And one of the things that I found the most striking, and that I look for in action books or in crime books, I mean, anything that's movement related, heavy movement related, is the choreography, especially during these fight scenes. And I think, Justin's been good at that, like in the past. I think he leveled up with this one. There's some really good choreography in this book.
Do you attribute that to him, or are you the artist? I mean,
both.
I would.
I think both. I think that's both. I think his. So it's kind of the same way when I talk about it in a Warren Ellis book. Like, no one else does fight choreography as well as Warren Ellis in comics, and and he gets that out of his artists. Like, he's able to tell them exactly what he wants. I would think, knowing Justin and knowing Justin's work and seeing a lot of his choreography before, that it feels like a Justin Jordan choreography. Like, it feels like a Justin Jordan fight scene, but he either wrote it the right way or just had the right conversations with his artist that he was able to pull that out and get what he needed to. So I think they're hand in hand. And I like got to give it a lot of props for that. It was a fun read. Also, when she picks up that shotgun, it made me happy.
Did anybody else picture Charlize Theron playing that character? Because I kind of did.
Yeah, I could see where you would get that. Sure. I liked when she spit out his ear.
That's got to be the title of this show.
Mm-hmm. I liked when she spit out his ear. Of course she did, Matt.
Yeah. Where is this bar and how quickly can I get there?
Now, he said background ones. I'm not quite sure about the, I don't know that he wants to bring negative light to real places. You know what I mean?
Right. He's just using the architecture and the small town vibe.
Yeah.
But it's in Pennsylvania somewhere. So.
Yeah. Well, I just know if this woman is based on a real person, I can make her very happy.
Or she can make you very happy, one or the other.
Or very dead.
Be a journey together.
Matt, what you said about the fact that she's like a no-nonsense kind of character, one of the things that I loved in that is it exudes that, except for, like, there's always that one person in everybody's life, if they're a no-nonsense, that for some reason they put up with the nonsense, and I feel like that's her brother in this, and I thought that was a neat little layer of texture to this. Like, she is the no-nonsense, like, I'm not going to put up with your shit character, except for, like, her brother, who is her, who may end up being her Achilles heel, if
sure.
I thought that was a brilliant.
Well, the best anti-heroes are usually written that way.
Yeah.
They're anti-heroes. They're not going to put up with shit, but their family is always their Achilles heel. Mm-hmm. And whether that's an adopted family, or whether it's, their actual blood family, depends on the narrative. But in my opinion, that's the best anti-heroes are written that way.
Yep.
It was a solid book. Really good. Really looking forward to reading the rest of it.
Justin, if you're listening, we'll slide you Matt's phone number if you can pass it along.
Who is she based off of? Is she a real person? And if so, could you give her Matt's phone number?
Needs to happen. Well, I read a book this week, but it's not a new book. I went back a little bit, back in time.
Is it a law book?
No, it's not. I'm in the middle of summer. I'm leaving law stuff at work. Because I'm working right now, I clock in and I do law and I clock out and then I don't. And it is amazing. Yay. And I forgot what that felt like, and I am thoroughly enjoying the ability to do that. No, you guys know how before times, before the great disease, how a new comic book movie came out like essentially every 3 months.
Yes, I do remember
at least
that.
Once a month.
Yes.
There's been a drought because theaters aren't open. Nobody's going to see movies, so we haven't really gotten any comic book films, right? We got one this week, and I watched it. I watched TV. It was really good.
Is it the Netflix one?
It is. It is on
also
Netflix.
Starring Charlize Theron.
I was going to say, you segue me right into it. It is The Old Guard, which, like I said, you can find on Netflix. And I read this in real time when it was coming out. Loved it. Thought it was great. Yep. And so I got, number one, giddy because I wanted to see this because it had a great cast. It was a great story. I had missed comic book related new movies coming out. And so it was like even though it did come out straight to Netflix, it was a little taste of normalcy that I truly appreciated during these dark times. or and I'm using air quotes, during these dark times, during these unprecedented times, during these difficult times, and all the other bullshit disclaimers that people use in emails. Uh, so, but it was fun. So after watching it and realizing, oh wow, they stuck really, really true to the story. In a lot of ways. I mean, they took artistic license as all filmmakers do, but like I noticed there were some direct quotes, and it really hit home. It really hit with the script of the story. So I decided to go up into my attic, into my great comics layer in the sky, and pull down the books and reread them. And because we don't have a 17-hour show, I can't tell you about the entire first arc, which is basically what the first film is, or what the film covers. But I can tell you about the first issue. And if you haven't read this, hopefully I will entice you to A, go watch the movie, and B, go buy the book, because you can buy it. Most likely their local comic shops got it. They can get it in trade. You can pick it up off of Comixology. It's readily available. And what else have you got to do right now, right? So, like I said, the book is called The Old Guard. It is brilliantly written by Mr. Greg Rucka, with art, pencils anyway, by Lindro Fernandez.
Ooh, I like him.
Yeah, he's he's really freaking good. Colors by Daniela Miwa and letters by Jody Wynn. So if you haven't read the book and you haven't seen the film yet, let me give you a little introduction into what it is. This story essentially follows 5 immortals. Four of which know they're immortals, and one of which is kind of new to this idea of immortality. Andy, Nikki, Joe, and Booker in the book are these immortals who they you don't know how long they've been alive. Andy, her real name is Andromeda of Cynthia, and she is, she's an antique, so to speak. In the movie, she's played by Charlize Theron, and it's awesome. But these characters have kind of formed a family. They've formed a team, and they have existed throughout time. They influence the world and influence history in little subtle ways that not even they quite realize. But they play an important part in the history of civilization, how the world works. I mean, this is going back from time immemorial, pre-Roman days, where they have just lived and existed and found ways to be mercenaries, so to speak. So they find themselves in the modern time, when this book is written, trying to make their way into a world that technology is now developed in new ways, where they have to find new ways to live in secret, to live in the shadows. It's no longer easy for them to hold up the masquerade, if you will, to hold up I'm getting tongue tied. It is no longer easy for them to exist in a world that doesn't see them, is what I'm trying to get at. And so they're struggling with it. And struggling with the ability to do so while acting as a kind of a private mercenary group. So they get a call from this guy, and he's an OG. He's old school. He used to work for, well, he's not OG in the way that they're OG in like centuries year old, but he used to work for the CIA, and that's kind of how they know him. They've done some wet work jobs for him, but he now is in private business. He's freelancing. And so he schedules a meeting with the team, and he's like, hey, so I know we didn't have the best experience of last time, but I've got a job and I need the best team. I need the best of the best, and you guys are the best of the best. And they've kind of had a rule, for obvious reasons, that they don't do double work. They don't work for the same people twice, at least in a lifetime. They might work for a government entity more than once, like they've done work for the CIA or whatever, clandestine government organizations in America over the time, but they've never worked with the same people because they don't age. And they're completely not going to do this, except the job in particular hits Andy. It strikes Andy as necessary. What he tells him is, hey, there's been a kidnapping of these Sudanese children. And they, these militants, this terrorist group, they raided a school, and they took all the girls. Now, you can imagine what's going through everybody's mind for the reasons they might have kidnapped these young women. And in real life, this happens. This is something we all tap into if we watch the news. We know what's going on. And because of the nature of what this is, Andy breaks her rule. She's double dipping with this person. She's going to work for him twice. while all this is going on, of course, in the meantime, in this world, and in the time it was written, the Afghani war is going on. America still has a military presence in Afghanistan, and this young Marine, this soldier, she is there. She's a woman. She's a female Marine. She's working within the groups, and her job as they go into these villages and they police the villages is to contact the locals, to speak to the women, because the women can't speak to men, try to find out information, try to figure out where these people that they are looking for are. And she enters this apartment where all the women are kind of held up. And as she's talking to them, she's just, she's trying to say, hey, we're sorry we had to come in here like this. My name's Niall. Nothing but respect to you. We're looking for this man. He's killed many of our people. He's a bad dude. And she's talking to this older woman, the kind of the matriarch of the place. And this older woman's like, there are no men here. Anybody who would use women and children as a shield is not a man. So there are no men here. Sorry, we can't help you. And as she says that, she kind of nods towards a door. The door is, it's covered up. It's trying to be hidden. And so Niles is like, okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. We're going to leave. She's being very loud and very vocal about this. We're getting the hell out of here. Sorry, there's no one here. Sorry we wasted your time. And she ushers for all the women to get out of the room. And she calls her unit, and they stack up on this door. And they go in. They breach. And, of course, there's a little bit of a gunfight. The guy that they're looking for is, in fact, in there hiding. He's got all kinds of bombs. But they shoot him. They put him down. But the problem is they were supposed to take this man alive. And so Niles rushes over. She's trying to, stop the bleeding. And what she doesn't realize is dude has a knife, pulls it out, slices her neck. Blood everywhere. Hits an artery. Hits the carotid. She's going down. Except she doesn't. The wound heals. This is not supposed to happen. Everybody's kind of confused, and they're trying to cover it up a little bit. Of course, her squad mates are they know what happened. They swear they saw her die. Niles died in their hands, and so they're really confused why. In the next day, they walk in there and she's kind of sitting on the bench, and she's working. She's fine, and there's not even a scar, and she's just I have no idea what happened. The medics. They say that they used a new technique. I don't know what happened. Of course, all of this is a lie, right? She's not sure what's going on. So after that happens, the book cuts back. It goes back over to Andy and her team, and they are now, they've got their weapons. They're ready to go. They are now stacked up on this building that the quote unquote terrorists are keeping these Sudanese girls in, and they're going to go on a rescue mission. And they breach. And there's no one there, and they work their way down the halls, and there's no one there, and they get to the room that all these kids are supposed to be going in there, and there's no one there. And they're very confused, and right when things start to click, all of these militant-esque, very westernized militant-esque figures, guns, night vision, just the most SWATiest of SWAT teams that you can imagine, rush into the room, guns ablazing. They just pump lead all through there. Pieces of Andy, chunks of her brain is missing. They just waste these people, except they don't fall down. And in one panel, they're part of they've got giant holes blown in them. And the other panel, now they don't again. And they say, it's our turn. And it is an epic bloodbath. They rip these people apart with bullets, with a battle axe. It's beautiful. It's carnage in the most wonderful kind of ways. And that's kind of where this book ends. What is that they know that they've been set up. They find a video camera that is recording to an off-site place, and so they've been found. All the work that they've done for centuries to not let the world know they exist and not let the world know what they are is gone. They don't know where it's gone. They've got a feeling they've been set up. They know who they've been set up by, the person that gave them the job, but they don't know why. They don't know what he did with this video footage that shows their secret. But they know that they got to stop him, and they know they're pretty hell-bent on it. And in some other part of the world, they receive a vision that their little party just got bigger, and that there's another immortal. That's the first 20-25 minutes of the film. It just goes on from there and is amazing. Fun fact, the kid who played Harry Potter's cousin in the films, a little fat, annoying bastard, is now a grown-up, skinny, annoying bastard, and he plays the bad guy, which I thought was great. as I watched that, I saw his little beady rat eyes, and I'm like, hey, that's Dudley Dursley. Fuck that guy. And you know what? After I watched that film, fuck that guy.
You know who his grandfather was? The second Doctor Who.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Little
Yeah.
English film legacy there.
Right.
Have either of you? So I guess 2 questions. Either you read this book, or have either of you watched the film yet?
No. I read the book, and I loved the book, and I forgot that the film had came out until this morning. So I'm planning on watching it this afternoon sometime.
Matt, for somebody who loves female protagonists and really violent books,
and crime books, yeah,
you need to read this book. Also, as somebody, and again, I'm going to make one of those same references that I love making, as somebody who loves the artistic stylings that are very reminiscent in this book. There's a little bit of Frank Miller, there's a little bit of Eduardo Risso. I'm making that connection again, and it's just because that's the art. When I see it, it strikes me. There's a taste of that in here, and it is right up your alley. I'm actually really shocked you didn't read this, because it is like, this book is going to give you a comics boner.
I'm sure he was doing something important, like watching Transformers or something.
Oh boy, don't you ever accuse me of such low character. Now, I read the synopsis of this story years ago, and the reason I never picked it up is the supernatural bend, the immortal bend. Those stories tend to just turn me off. It's like, well, what are they? How brave are they really fighting? I mean, if they can't die, I'm like,
so
whatever.
I'll go ahead and spoil some things. There's a twist to that. Everything that is born must die, right? That's just true of life. These people, they're immortal. I'm going to mention vampires here. There's no vampires in this book. The vampires have no connections other than me making analogies. Vampires are immortal, but they can die, right? Like, they can be killed. One of the main driving forces in this book is that, like, literally these are all the immortals in the world, and somehow they share like a connection, but there have been other immortals, and those other immortals have died. One of which they were very close to, and that's going to segue into the second chapter of the book. But Andy, who is the oldest of all of these, like, she's Andromeda the Scythian, like, she's the oldest, she's most battle hardened. At some point in this book, she gets shot, and she doesn't heal. There is a natural progression to the lifespan of these people, and although we think of them as immortals, they are not truly immortals. They just live. They are Methuselahs in a sense, 900, 1,000, 2,000 years old. But they do have an expiration date, and their bodies do shut down on them eventually. They just never know when it's going to happen or what is going to cause it. Like I said, spoilers if you haven't read the books, but at some point, Andy particularly doesn't heal from a wound, and it becomes a truly matter of life and death person from someone who has seen everything. And in a way, it is a passing of the torch from her to Niles, both of these warrior women, one of which who is at the end of her very long and illustrious and brutal life, the other one who is just beginning it, and there's a legacy vibe to it that was really, really great. In both the story and the film, like, they did a really good job with it. I have no complaints with the film whatsoever. Is it something I'll remember in 20 years? I'll remember the story. I won't remember the film. Like, it's a comic book movie. It is what it is. It's not a blockbuster. It was never meant to be, but it's a really good film, and it's a really great adaptation. And as you might, like you said, you like this artist. You like Leandro Fernandez. He draws a particular type of woman in a particular type of way, and it is stunning. Even me, as a member of the illustrious homosexual community, his women are, well, I mean, he draws them a variety of ways, but the ones in here particularly they're curvy. They are warrior women to the truest point. They are sensual and sexy. They pick the right women to play these characters in the film, and from the art to the production of the film it's good. And so like I said, I think you would really enjoy this, Matt. I know Craig did, and I'm selling him on something he's already bought.
Yeah, I mean, I love the story, and like I said, I'm going to watch the movie hopefully this afternoon.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of Paul Pope / Maria Lovett in Lindro Fernandez. So for those of you who are listening at home, if you've never read this book, and maybe you're newer to comics, maybe you're not dipped in, and so when I say things like Paul Pope, you haven't read Paul Pope books, or when I say things like Eduardo Riso, maybe you haven't experienced that, but you've listened to this podcast and you've read Faithless that has Maria Lovett, her artwork in there. Maybe that's your connection too. There's a seed of that there too. I think she is definitely in the family tree of this comic artist. So go check it out. Like I said, and watch the film. It's great. I got no complaints whatsoever. I had a fun time with it.
Good.
It's brutal.
Can't wait to watch it. Yeah. I figure it is based on the comic. It should be.
Oh, they went there.
Good.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
I love hearing what you guys are reading. You know what else I love hearing?
What we're gonna read?
Damn Skippy.
We're gonna nickname you King of Segway.
I'm trying.
Right?
I'm trying. My hardest.
And he also said, "Damn Skippy."
Damn Skippy.
Damn Skippy.
I can't
Language.
I can't tell if you're. That's funny. I can't tell if Matt's poking fun at me with my damn Skippy or if he's appreciating it. I need to know.
Well, I just think it's
Why not both?
a very effective way to differentiate between regular Skippy and extra Skippy.
Extra Skippy, is that the one with the peanuts in it?
Ugh. No. I hate crunchy peanut butter.
I do too.
Matt?
Man, I'll take some peanut butter. You can put it on an old boot and I'd eat it.
Crunchy or plain or creamy?
Oh, man. Whatever you got. Skippy all natural is the best while we're on Skippy. I didn't even say that for a check, kids.
I don't like crunchy peanut butter for the simple fact that I feel like you just kind of...
Well, Caleb, we're not here to talk about people's faults.
Mine or theirs, because I have no faults. But we are, you're right, we are here to talk about what's coming up in the world of comics as new books hit the shelf next week. So
I have a sudden desire to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch today.
do it to it. While you're doing that, though, Matt, tell me what you're picking up this next week.
So what I'm picking up is from Marvel Comics 2020 Wolverine #1. I'm picking this up because, obvious. Plus, it's written by Larry Hama.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, that got my attention. Larry Hama, for you kids out there that don't recall or weren't around then, had a legendary Wolverine run, much of which was illustrated by the great Mark Silvestri. So
let's just put this out there. If Larry Hama was on something, it was pretty much legendary.
Yeah.
You don't have G.I. Joe without Larry Hama.
He did some good things.
He has
good things, and he still does.
Yeah.
And the art on this is by Roland Boschi. For what it's worth, there's a cover done by Juan Jose Rip that is freaking killer. Man, this cover is killer. So Google it. That looks just, I think the kids say dope. So yeah, check it out.
It's on fleek.
So the book I chose is 100% because of the creative team. Because this is not a book I don't believe I would have chosen otherwise. But if I told you Christopher Priest, Jay Lee, and Gabrielle Ibarra were on a book together, you'd say, damn, sign me up for that book. So I'm saying sign up for that book. It's called Sacred Six. The reason I say it's a book I wouldn't be signed up for is because it's spinning out of Vampirella. And it's four women are lured to rural Georgia as part of a mysterious scheme to defend an impoverished farming town, which finds itself under siege by zealots. Now, it's not that I have anything against Vampirella. I just don't typically do spin-off stuff. But this creative team has me sold.
Yeah, this is it. I was actually surprised. Like when I saw this in the previews, I thought it might be a Gail Simone thing because it seems like something that she would do. But I was very surprised when I saw whose name was on there. But
yeah, Christopher Priest.
Uh-huh.
It's worth giving a read, and Jay Lee doing the art's definitely worth looking at. So
wow, so Jay Lee's doing the interiors too, huh?
According to what I saw, yes. I know he's definitely doing covers.
I hope he cared about it more than his Justice League run. So anyway, good priest is good priest. So in all forms. So I am going to recommend folks pick up an event that's going to be starting at the House of Ideas, and that is Empyre #1, written by Al Ewing, teamed up with Dan Slott, actually, with art by somebody that I truly, really, really do like, and I think he's got a great body of work, and he's going to do great things as he continues to develop. But Valerio Schiti is doing the art on this. Look, I'm a Hulkling fan, so part of this is just, number one, tickling my fancy for Wiccan and Hulkling. It is taking what the inception of what was presented in the Young Avengers, where Hulkling was always said like there was a legend behind him. He was supposed to eventually unite the galaxy. He is the son of two different kingdoms, so to speak, in the Kree and the Skrull, and it has made him an emperor. And now he's coming for Earth for some reason, and we don't know why. But I have no idea whether it's going to be good or bad. I really, I'm not going to read any of the side things that Marvel puts into it. I'm not going to tell you got to go read everything that's an Empyre crossover, because you truly don't. But I am really excited to see Hulkling back in the Marvel world with some teeth to him. So go check that out. So, well, do we have anything else? We got anything else we need to cover? Did I miss anything?
No, we covered everything.
All the things.
Covered it all.
From comics to peanut butter. Fucking
crunchy. There's your title.
From comics to peanut butter. I like it creamy.
And spitting out ears.
Well, everybody, we really hope you enjoyed the last little bit, spending some time with us. We enjoyed it. I know, as we said we did, and none of my friends are liars, so I know they enjoyed it. But if you want more of this, I'll continue to reiterate, we're on social media and all the places that you heard us say. Come find us. We're not hard to find. We would love to interact and engage with you all. Let us know what's up. Let us know what you're into. Because it's fun times. As always, we will be here again next week, same time, same place. Lord willing and the creek don't rise, as my granddaddy would say, to talk about some comics. So if nothing else, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay safe, stay healthy, go forth and love some comics.
Woo!